Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here in Antwerp. And first off, I want to start by dedicating this video to motorsports legend Ken Block. The news reached me today, sadly, that he passed away at age 55 in a ski mobile accident yesterday. So I am wearing my DC in honor of him. He was the co-founder of DC. And even though I don't have anything with sports in general, yeah, that news kind of hit hard. So, anywho, on to, lovelier things. For example, we are gonna talk about another winter beer today. For today, I chose another winter beer and another atypical winter beer. So again, not the dark, heavy molasses, herbal Trappist beers. No, we are going for a blonde today, a triple actually, a rum barrel aged Schuppenboer Winter by Brewery Het Nest. Now, first off, let's talk about the brewery as usual. This is again a brewery with a rather short yet amazing history. The story actually begins when in 2000 a bunch of friends, not unlike myself and probably many amongst you, started a beer tasting club. Back then they were called the Order of the Drunk Sparrow, the Orde van de Zotte Mus. These things go along, and ever so often they get the idea that, well, we might be able to do this better, because as you've noticed on this channel, and you will have noticed at home as well, not every beer that you taste is that good. We do have worse days and better days. So in 2006, some of them enroll in a brewing course at a local brewers guild, and they buy a 50-liter brewing installation. Again, not unlike myself. Now, by the end of the year, some test brews are somewhat or more than satisfying even, and they even win third place at the Dutch Championship for amateur brewers. So they decide to take things a step further and start their own brewery. Now, of course, starting your own commercial brewery with a 50-liter kettle, that just doesn't work. So they handed out the brewing to another brewery. Their first fixed range beer, which is actually the base beer for what we're gonna taste today, the Schuppenboer Tripel, or the Jack of Spades Triple, is being handed to brewery Boelens in Belzele, which is right next to Turnhout where they are. And they have a 500-liter kettle, so half a hectoliter per brew. Now, we have heard about Boelens in Belzele when we're talking about Seminis Accident, and I'll put the card right up here. Actually, those 500 liters soon proved to be not enough as well. So they move to het Hofbrouwerijke in Beersel, which is a tiny bit further. And we have talked about that brewery as well in the Blondel Saison video. I'll put that card up here as well. Het Hofbrouwerijke has a larger capacity. However, in a few years, they actually maxed out that as well. So they moved to a large brewery with more than triple the capacity, and that is the Scheldebrouwerij in Meer, which is a bit closer to where I live. And I haven't done a video about them yet, but that's bound to happen. They brewed there for several years, and of course Het Nest, well, they're busy bees. They try new recipes, they try experimenting with different things, so they need more and more capacity, and so the time comes to start their own brewery. That comes in a bit later. So you will have noticed that I said the Jack of Spades, and they also have the Queen of Hearts and the Dead Man's Hand and all those things. Now, het nest, or the nest, which was derived from the sparrows back in the days, sparrow's nest, they are based in Turnhout, and Turnhout is the global capital of playing cards. So if you've ever heard of Carta Mundi, the playing card production site, that is in Turnhout, in a small village here in Belgium, in Antwerp actually. So they chose to adopt the deck of cards and everything surrounding it as their theme, their house style. They have beers called the Dead Man's Hand, they have a 4 Aces series, they have the poker face. Their logo, which you will see in a minute, is also some playing cards. And of course they produce beautiful, beautiful labels with the classic playing card faces. Part of their dream was launching a large straight, so from 10 to ace, in beers. And in 2014 they fulfilled that ambition with their 5th beer, of course, and they didn't stop there. Now in 2015 things really exploded for these guys, because they experimented a bit more with different styles, like the Saison and the Imperial Stout and stuff, and they started trying barrel aging. They also reached 10 countries for export, amongst which the large ones like the USA, Russia, I think Japan is one of them. That meant that they had to start building a new brewery. And so they did. A bit later, after exporting for a while to Brazil, they actually started brewing locally in Brazil as well. And in 2018, they actually brought in a canning line from Luxembourg to experiment with canning their beers. They started canning their 2 low alcohol beers. Now, honestly, I must say, I don't know where that went. They rented that canning line. I don't know if they have any plans of canning more beers. I know that right now they are still bottling in 33s and in 75s, and kegging, of course. But since I do believe that cans are the future of beer and storage, I'm quite interested in seeing where this goes. What I really like is that Het Nest is a very simple and honest brewery, and by that I mean honest in their marketing as well. For example, they do have the Koekendam. I believe this is the Queen of Diamonds, and they call that Saison style, so they acknowledge that it's not really a Saison. Apparently they don't hit 8 out of 10 requirements, but only 6 or 7 maybe. So they called it Saison style and not Saison, which I can really appreciate. They are telling you what it is, and they are not lying or marketing with something that's not true. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Now about this beer, I'm gonna take the beer with me here. This is the Schuppenboer Winter 2022. Now I do believe that the recipe hasn't changed since 2020. I also believe that in 2018, 19, these were whiskey barrel aged. I'm not entirely sure about that. If you know this, please comment down below. I'll look it up as well. But since 2020 they are rum barrel aged, and well, I love rum, so what can I say? The Schuppenboer Winter is actually a variation on a variation of a beer. What they do is they took their original beer, the Schuppenboer Tripel, and they made that into a Grand Cru. So they adjusted the recipe with more hops and a larger amount of malts, and they made that into a heavier triple. It's not a quadruple, you might say it's a triple and a half. The Tripel is an 8% ABV and the Grand Cru is a 10% ABV. Now the Tripel is made with Cascade hop and coriander, and the Grand Cru has a bit more malt, a bit more hops, and is more fruity and herbal. And if I'm not mistaken, they actually add some extra herbs as well on top of the coriander. Now the Winter is actually that Grand Cru and aged on the barrels. So like I said, a variation on their original beer. So let's see what the label tells us. A blonde, well-rounded beer ripened in rum barrels from Central American Belize. The rum and woody notes give extra depth to this beautiful, balanced, fruity and hoppy beer. Sounds nice. Love the label as well. This lovely classic Jack wearing ear warmers and having a beer. Also a branded bottle cap, you know, I have a soft spot for those. And unfortunately I don't have the proper glassware, but it's more or less the same. They actually use executive glasses printed with their 5-card logo. The same logo that is featured on this bottle cap. Ooh, that sure is woody, alright. Yeah, it's actually more wood than beer. Of course, I am not an expert on this field, but I dare say these are wooden oak caskets. I absolutely love that smell. Quite sweet, a bit of vanilla, and I'm very curious as to what the rum does to that taste as well. And this is one of those beers that I can already taste just by smelling the bottle. Oh, water's already running down my throat. Lovely color. You can imagine that this was a nice golden yellow triple, and it got a lot hazier and yeah, a bit darker, a bit more orangey because of the tannins in the wood that got released. More of that wood, more sweetness, a bit of the rum. Smells quite boozy and a bit herbal as well. Yeah, also lovely white foam, a bit off-white foam, quite dense, and you probably won't see this on video, but the glass is full of tiny itty-bitty bubbles. It's more like a champagne pearl. Let's have a taste. Beautiful. As you guys know, or I hope that you guys know this, I'm not a beer snob. I don't think that everything with IPA in the name or barrel aged in the name is immediately great, but this is absolutely awesome. I think that they didn't lie on the label. It is an absolutely well-rounded beer. Quite strong. I do like the idea that they used the Grand Cru here instead of the original triple, so those 2 extra percent ABV actually pay off. You get a very full mouthfeel. It really covers the whole base and the roof of the mouth as well. And also they didn't lie about the bitterness from the hops. Cascade is a lovely bitter hop, and that really shines through here. So that in combination with the tannins from the wood, a bit of vanilla flavor, but also the darker parts of the wood, make this an awesome beer. And it is quite boozy because of course it already has 10%, but I do think that the rum flavors elevate that a bit as well. And those tiny mini bubbles add to the mouthfeel, but they are not aggressive, not like in a Duvel where we have larger bubbles. Now I must say, I am very happy that I found a 33 centiliter bottle, because in most supermarkets, now I went to a specialized store, but in most supermarkets you can only find the 75 centiliter bottles, and I understand because they are absolutely beautiful. They are printed instead of labeled, and that's how I got to know this brewery, by the way. But I think that to drink 75 centiliters of this on my own, it's a great beer, but it also has some strong tastes. The combination of hops, coriander, wood, rum, it's quite a lot, and I do think that I would like to stick with one for a day. So yeah, very happy with my smaller bottle. Yeah. I never tasted the whiskey barrel aged version, but I can imagine that that's a bit heavier in taste and maybe a bit too much for me. I love rum. I like the sweet notes and the woody hints of this this beer, but it's already quite heavy. So I think they made a very yeah, a great choice choosing for rum barrels, and not only because, let's face it, it's sort of a hype, but just because, yeah, it gives another flavor palette, and I think this really goes very well together. Now I am inclined to try the Grand Cru itself, because I am very curious now for that taste of the coriander with the cascade hops and without the woods and the rum. Anywho, I'm just gonna stop talking about this beer. It's awesome, I love it. Let's score it. I would call this a 3.75, maybe a 4 in Untapped. I'll see what I do when I finish this beer, which will not be for a few minutes. As usual, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate that. If you have any remarks, any comments, or any tips, leave them down in the comments. If you want to see more, subscribe, hit the bell icon, you'll get notified when I upload something. And if you are wondering who Ken Block is, who I talked about in the beginning of this video, just go to the YouTube search bar and type in Ken Block or Gymkhana, and you'll be amazed what this guy does with a car. He's like a rally pilot, but he stunts millimeter correct. So cheers you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another, not a winter beer, but a very festive beer, literally. Cheers.